Johnny Morris and Bass Pro Shops proudly present the History of Sportfishing. Men have fished since the beginning of time. For survival. Man has fished since the beginning of time. Ancient cave drawings, dating back 40,000 years, show prehistoric man fishing for food. When man first dipped a line, for the sheer joy of hooking a fish, certainly predates any written history. Fishing as a sport was born of creative men and women who transformed what was once an act of survival into a passion practiced today by millions worldwide. Through determination and ingenuity, pioneering individuals drove the sport forward, creating new tackle, techniques, and equipment. Each development brought new possibilities and new challenges. These are the roots from which the sport of fishing was born. Fishing has woven itself into the very fabric of America's soul. Fishing doesn't merely recall a simpler America or a better America. It is America. Fishing reflects this country's essence in its purest and represents the best in all of us. Passed down from generation to generation, fishing is as much a part of America's pastime as baseball, football, apple pie, and the 4th of July.
Angling hits a high spot in casting for black bass, one of the gamest of freshwater fish. These Florida misses are adept at this sport. Here's a remarkable shot taken below the surface. Watch that underwater plug and see what happens. They're vicious hunters, these bass, and when they hit hard. He's hooked, and there's no getting away, not when that young lady is at the other end of the line.
The first century of bass fishing for sport in the U.S. had seen a steady but slow growth in popularity. From the early 1800s through the turn of the 20th century, bass went from being a source of food to a fish respected for its potential as a sporting challenge. This was in thanks, in large part, to Dr. Henshall's 1881 book, The Book of the Black Bass. Tackle advances like the Kentucky multiplying reel, new line and rod materials, and the introduction of wooden plugs. In the period from 1967 through 1970, Ray Scott, Bob Cobb, Helen Sevier, and Harold Sharp had laid a foundation for the future of bass fishing.
Some of the earliest plugs, and they go back at least to the early 1900s, late 1800s, with guys like James Hedden in Dowagiac, Michigan, carving pieces of barrel plugs or barrel bungs, as they were, which were called plugs in the day. It changed bass fishing in a lot of ways because, first of all, it meant you didn't have to dig up worms or catch minnows or catch grasshoppers or crickets and things like that. And so there was a cleaner, perhaps more gentlemanly element to it. But those early plugs were special because they added an element of sport to it. They added an element of mystique to it. They added a lot of discussion to the game. You know, you could talk about which was more attractive, which was more lifelike, which was more apt to draw a strike. And I think the major way that the early plugs, and even plugs to this day, have advanced the sport of bass fishing is when you're fishing live bait, you're basically appealing to a bass's hunger sense. If that fish is not hungry, it's likely to avoid your live or natural bait. But when you're fishing an artificial lure, where you're imparting every bit of action to that piece of wood, or in later days, plastic. When you're imparting every bit of action to that thing, you're able to appeal to a lot more senses than just hunger. You can potentially violate that fish's space and cause it to strike out of some sort of territoriality.
That was a good one, too.
However, up in northern Michigan, they don't always leave their cars on the shore. Say, what kind of a boat do you think you're launching? There's plenty of room for all who care to enjoy the comforts of the modern motor car. No hooks, no line, no bait, no waiting. Just close the door, and with any luck at all, you have a load of passengers. Let's see how many of the little fellows were motor-minded. This watertight body brings them back alive. And that is the end of the fish story.
When you look back at the history of fishing, there's just certain individuals, certain brands that have led the way in where many of us are now. Not only in our careers, but when you look at lakes and conservation and the messaging and the ability for us all to be able to go fish. Whether you're a guy drowning a minnow for a crappie or you're fishing in a tournament, a lot of this is tied to these key brands, and a lot of it is really tied to Johnny Morris's efforts.
The awesome part with this deal, yeah, we're celebrating 50 years anniversary of an amazing organization with Johnny Morris, Bass Pro Shops, White River Boats, all the great things that has to do with. But the big thing with this, it's all about conservation.
You know, it's amazing how much Bass Pro Shop over the years has done for conservation. Without a doubt, Johnny Morris is the #1 conservationist, not only in America, but in the world, in the history of the world. He's done more to make fishing and hunting better than anybody, and he's done a goodly part of that with his own money.
Bass Pro Shop's been a real leader in conservation. The things that Johnny Morris has done, he's really taken the bull by the horn. So many projects that the general public doesn't even know about that Johnny's involved in to try to make hunting, fishing, the whole conservation picture so much better for everybody. And it's a huge role. If you're involved in the outdoors, you really need to help Johnny support conservation.
The sport of fishing is enjoyed by millions of individuals around the globe, with over 260 million licensed anglers worldwide. 50 million Americans over the age of 6 fish in a given year. That's nearly 1 in 6 Americans who are out on the water every year with a rod in their hands. What other sport can claim that level of not just observation, but participation by 17% of the population, regardless of age, sex, or socioeconomic background? Many of the earliest organized conservation practices in sport fishing came from the anglers themselves, and today they continue working to ensure its future.
Did you see him go score? Come on, mate. That's good to get him away like that.
Well, I think what we've gotten right over the years is to realize the need to not just keep all the fish that we catch. And the whole concept of catch and release. I mean, when I was a kid catching our first bonita, I mean, we'd take the bonita home and they'd probably end up in the garden. And when we caught our first marlin, you know, back in the day, we proudly had a picture taken of it. Well, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, that was the ethic. That was okay. That conservation ethic, that catch and release ethic, doesn't mean that we shouldn't eat fish, but it means that let's just keep those that we know we're going to use, take care of properly. That's been a huge change, and we've gotten that right. What we've really gotten right in this country is the rest of the world looks at the U.S. as being an anomaly and being the standard for fisheries management and fisheries conservation. No other country does it anywhere near like we do it. Nobody else has the ability to generate the funds that we generate in this country from the users of the resource, from the fishermen. And what we clearly can do better is to help fisheries managers, help policymakers better understand that the sport fishing community is not just some men and women out there having fun on a boat catching some fish. And it's not just that there's 55 million of us out there doing it. There's an economic engine. I think it's somewhere in the range of a $50 billion industry. It's huge. And I don't think that our Congress, I don't think that our state legislators, I don't think that folks that are representing the interest of people in this country really have a total understanding of what an economic engine the sport fishing community is. So we can do better in helping them to understand that.
In 2021, anglers in the United States alone generated $48 billion in annual retail sales. Worldwide, those numbers are in the trillions. Overall, recreational fishing has an annual $129 billion impact on the U.S. economy through fishing, fishing-related purchases, travel, and tourism. Those who benefit from these expenditures stretch far beyond local marinas, fishing guides, charter operators, tackle shops, and gas stations.
Thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you for being here to celebrate and raise money for conservation and awareness for conservation.
I shook Johnny Morris's hand today. Yeah. That is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, look at this thing. Oh my God. You will not believe how big this fish is. Oh my God. I got an absolute giant. Oh, this fish is a beast.
She absolutely smoked that almost 10-inch bait.
This is the History of Sport Fishing. Chapter 9, Bass, the gamest fish that swims. The first known written history on fishing freshwater bass is given to us by Dr. James Alexander Henshaw in his 1881 seminal work, The Book of the Black Bass, where he writes, "I consider him, inch for inch and pound for pound, the gamest fish that swims."
Right there, in 1881, James Henshaw not only told us that the bass would become the most important sport fish in America, but he explained why. And every word of that passage has been proved true.
Fishing, guys.
A lot of things changed the course of bass fishing and helped the bass rise to prominence as America's greatest and most significant sport fish. One was growth of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, building dams all around the country, impounding waters where the bass thrived and trout struggled.
The IWFF remains the only international women's fly fishing club and serves as a resource connecting anglers to coordinated trips with other members, educational seminars, and online resources with a network of recommended guides, instructors, and more.
Well, women in fly fishing is nothing new. Obviously, there have been women paving the way and kind of elevating our participation for a very long time. Well, just like that, people in the industry have been talking about ways to make our industry stronger, and having women elevated in this industry is really a key way to do it.
Recognizing the importance of the growing trend of women in fly fishing, Orvis, along with partners Costa, Sims, and Yeti, launched a 50-50 on-the-water campaign to make it easier for women to participate in the sport. Celebrate the unique connection between women, conservation, and their shared experiences, fly fishing, and communing immersed in nature.
the PTSD, those hidden wounds that we don't see. I would go to the water and work it out rather than having it jumble up in my mind. Being on the water, it's a sense of tranquility. There's no competition, and it's peace. It's quiet. And that's the reason I began my time with Project Healing Waters. Veterans can come and bond together, whether they have a disability, physical or emotional. What matters to us is inside a person and not what's outside a person. But you have made my brother, my father so much better, and the change that has come about them. I would do anything I could to try and help these vets. I've been there. They're my brethren. It matters what's inside and how we treat people.
Back in 1932, I caught a 6-pound bass. I didn't hear get a lot of publicity about it at that time, but I believe this year, if I'd have caught a 6-pound bass, I'd have been in the newspaper. Probably won a lot of money.
I was born and raised on the river. It's the only life I know. Folks around here have put a name on me, and I hear it wherever I go. They say, Bass Boy, hey Bass Boy, what they hitting today, Bass Boy? The water and sun is a whole lot of fun for a carefree bassin' boy.
You caught 50 bass the first day. Now you can tell me how anybody, what did you do all day? I stayed out of the wind as much as I could.
By far, the biggest personality and the guy with the biggest impact on the sport of bass fishing and the sport of fishing generally, particularly in America, over the last 60 or 70 years is Ray Scott, previously an insurance salesman from Montgomery, Alabama. And Ray kind of burst on the scene in 1967 when he hosted a tournament that he called the All-American on Beaver Lake in Arkansas. It was in June. And just a few months earlier, while he was on a fishing trip in Mississippi to Ross Barnett Reservoir, he was waiting out a rainstorm in his motel room, and he said to himself, you know, why isn't bass fishing on the same level as these other sports I see on TV, whether it be basketball or baseball or football? And he set about to make that happen. And he formed the Bass Angler Sportsman Society in 1968 and created what we know as modern tournament fishing.
Say that you're living, tell me life is fine. If that's the best you're doing, that ain't reaching too high. Life's so full of wonders, lots of open doors. It's worth the extra effort to go for something more. You can stay there in your comfort zone, but you'll miss out on what you could have known. Push it to the max, take it to the limit, jump into the game, don't waste another minute. Step inside the ring, believing you can win it, then turn around and do it again. Slam it up to 10. Yeah! If all you had was one day left to live your life, tell me how you'd spend it, tell me what you'd try. I bet that you'd dive head first, no questions in your mind. You know you would do it, so do it all the time. Let go of all your fears and hit it hard. Don't ever settle for just 9 yards. Push it to the max, take it to the limit, jump into the game, don't waste another minute. Step inside the ring, believing you can win it, then turn around and do it again. Slam it up to 10. Don't ever settle for just 9 yards. Push it to the max. Take it to the limit. Jump into the game. Don't waste another minute. You know you would do it, so do it all the time. Let go of all your fears and hit it hard. Don't ever settle for just 9 yards. Push it to the max. Take it to the limit. Jump into the game. Don't waste another minute. Step inside the ring. Believing you can win it. Then turn around and do it again. Slam it up to 10. Yeah! Let go of all your fears and hit it hard. Don't ever settle for just 9 yards. Push it to the max. Take it to the limit. Jump into the game. Don't waste another minute. Step inside the ring. Believing you can win it. Then turn around and do it again. Turn around and do it again. Slam it up to 10. Yeah! Slam it up to 10. Yeah!
Yeah, go ahead, honey. Plant one on me. I'll just have to get my kids next year.
At that first tournament on Beaver Lake, competition boats consisted of John boats, bow riders, aluminum skiffs, you name it. Those were the days before modern bass boats, when anglers fished out of whatever they had and made do. Billy Dance caught the first bass of the tournament by stopping a minute after blastoff and making a cast with a 7.5-inch blue flip-tail plastic worm. Before the worm even hit the bottom, he was on, and the legend of Bill Dance had started. In many ways, the bass, and particularly the largemouth, mirrors the American experience. Bass populations started in the southeast, but expanded west in the 19th century. As the United States rose to prominence during the war years, bass and bass fishing spread with the building of new reservoirs all across the country. As U.S. ideas and influence spread across the globe, they took the bass with them. And as the U.S. became the most impactful nation in the world, so did the bass become the most widespread and coveted game fish on Earth. When we think of nature and natural habitats, we often think of shrinking resources and declining opportunities. That's probably true for most wild animals and fish in the modern world, but it's not true for the bass. There is more bass habitat, and there are more bass today than at any other time in history. And that's because the bass is a remarkably adaptive creature. We've expanded the range of bass and added massively to their habitat. If you live in North America, and it's true in many other places as well, you are probably not very far away from a healthy body of water offering quality bass fishing. One of the most rewarding things about fishing in general, and bass fishing in particular, is that you can seek and find your own place. If you want to sit on the bank of a small creek or pond and fish with a cane pole and a worm, you can do that and have a wonderful time. If you want to buy a state-of-the-art bass boat with all the latest electronics and race across lakes and rivers at high speeds in pursuit of trophies and prize money, you can do that and quench any thirst for competition you may have. Most of us land somewhere in between, but we know we're doing it right when we're having fun and sharing the experience with family, friends, and loved ones.
Golly. I was swimming that worm again, and he just boiled up there just as pretty as you please.
Bill Dance was fishing's first superstar, and he's still, now he's in his 80s, he's still the biggest name in sport fishing. He's still the most well-known angler on the planet. It's not close.
Another dandy.
One of my favorite people in the world. If you see Bill Dance on TV and you fall in love with a personality, that's the same guy you meet at an event. And Bill became a star in the earliest days of Ray Scott's BASS tournaments. He caught the first fish in a BASS tournament. He won 7 of the first 14 BASS tournaments. And so he was the real deal on the water in competition. He was also the real deal when it comes to things like showing how much fun it was, teaching anglers how to fish, and just bringing a face and personality to the game.
And yeah, Johnny and I have been buddies for 45 years.
I was thinking about where I met you, buddy.
You met me in
1970.
on Table Rock Lake.
All-American Bass Tournament. That was like 52 years ago now. Can you believe it? I can't even believe it.
Boy.
We've been buddies for quite a while. Buddy, you're a great ambassador. I don't want your head to swell up too much, but not only for our company, but for the sport of fishing. Just like, I mean, everywhere we go, these kids come running up to you. That's pretty great.
Well, I appreciate that.
Young kids and old kids too. Hey, how blessed are we, huh? Being on this river, same river we met on over 50 years ago.
We're still doing what we love to do.
What we love, that's all that
later.
matters, isn't it?
Huh?
Been blessed, man. Spend our whole lifetime doing something we love to do.
Yeah.
And you can't call it work, can you?
No, you can't.
No.
Well, I remember when Johnny used to talk about he wanted to get into the retail business. He'd dream about, and I've watched his dreams. He'd talk about things he wanted to do, and I've watched those dreams become reality. He's an amazing guy. And his daddy had a chain of spirit stores, liquor stores. And he said, Daddy gave me back to the store. And I said, he did. He said, yeah, I'm going to have a grand opening in a few weeks. Will you come up for my grand opening? And I said, well, absolutely. And it was a Brown Derby liquor store. And up on this big pole was a marquee. And it said, Jack Daniels, half gallons, welcome, Bill Dance. And I thought, buddy, I made the big time. My name's up there with Jack Daniels. And I remember going in that store, but he had a little old box aquarium. And he put crappie in there and bass in there, and the bass ate all the crappie. But he had the little box aquarium and spinner baits, old Virgil Ward's spinner baits. And his daddy, I remember the story, Johnny had rods in a barrel, and they were really classy looking rods. I mean, the rods were really nice looking rods. And John A., his daddy, he picked that rod up and he went, ooh. You mean to tell me you can sell a rod, this quality rod, for $19.95? And Johnny said, yes, sir. He said, well, how much does a rod like this cost you? And he said, $24.95. And he said, this rod costs you $24.95, son, and you're selling it for $19.95? And he said, yes, sir. He said, you'll never make it in this business, boy. You'll never make it in this business.
Johnny Morris is the tycoon that bass fishing created. You know, you think Ray Scott did very well with BASS, and he did. Ray became a millionaire. Some other tackle manufacturers became millionaires as well. But with Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, Johnny Morris has become a billionaire. And he got there largely through his relationships with people like Ray Scott and the people he met on the Bass Tournament Trail back in the 1970s when he qualified for 5 classics in a row. And what Johnny Morris realized was there was a lot of great bass tackle out there, but people didn't generally have access to it. So he took mail order and brought it to the bass fishing world. And suddenly, instead of waiting for the Sears catalog with excitement, you were looking for the Bass Pro Shops catalog, and that was much, much cooler. You know, Johnny Morris has done a lot of things in the boating industry. His White River Marine is a serious player, and these days he owns a significant part of that fishing boat market. And whether you're talking about his Bass Tracker boats, which is the aluminum line of boats, or the later Nitro boats, what Johnny Morris did was he made them a commodity on some level. You could order them through a catalog. You knew exactly what you were getting. You could trade out this electric motor for that electric motor, this depth finder for that depth finder. It was, and you could go to the store and see it very easily, perhaps all over the country if you happen to be fortunate enough to be near a Bass Pro Shops, but not many people were until the 90s. But you could order these things through the catalog, they could be delivered to you, you could go pick them up in Springfield, Missouri, and they are still very important. Apart from Johnny Morris's contributions to the marketplace of bass fishing through his Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's brick and mortar stores, his online ordering, the catalog ordering that was so prominent back in the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s, he has become fishing's biggest philanthropist. Johnny Morris donates millions of dollars and tremendous resources to the sport of fishing. His contributions to the outdoors go far beyond fishing.
To everyone in our great outdoor family, you may be feeling a little cooped up, but don't forget, there are still rocks to be skipped, trails to be trampled, fish to be caught. The great outdoors are wide open, and they're calling us like never before. In these trying times, we need nature more than ever. We need nature to remind us that like a sunrise or the turning of the tides, these challenges will pass. We need nature to help us heal and reconnect with the ones we love the most. So when you can, get back to nature. Get back to each other.
That's a big one, baby. Oh my God, get the net, get the net,
I can't. Oh my God, hold on. Oh my God. Reverse. I'm trying to fit.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, that was the most difficult.
Oh my gosh. Holy crap, man. Look at this bass. Okay.
comes Aaron Martins, ladies and gentlemen. He was your day 2 leader. He needs 3 pounds and 15 ounces to make the history books. Oh, is this gonna be close?
Biggin. Yeah.
Pounds, 8 ounces, and that makes Kevin Van Dam a 2-time Citgo Bassmaster Classic champion from Kalamazoo,
Michigan. The sport had superstars such as Bill Dance, Roland Martin, Tom Mann, and Jimmy Houston.
Winning the Classic is you have won the Super Bowl. You are, quote unquote, the world champion.
There's no tournament in the world that compares to the Bassmaster Classic. The media you have there, the prestige, it's our Super Bowl of fishing.
The Classic is big time. We're talking 25, 30,000 people out there screaming, and then the television audience that will pick up on it. When you win it, everybody in the world knows it.
It's what everyone dreams about, and it's become the pinnacle on top of the mountain. It is the Super Bowl. It is the World Series. It's the NCAA tournament for bass fishermen.
The pressure of knowing that this is the biggest event in the sport, and if you win the Classic, it'll make your whole career.
Qualifying for the Bassmasters Classic was a childhood dream for most of these anglers. While his friends were watching Saturday morning cartoons, they were fishing with the likes of Bill Dance, Jimmy Houston, or Roland Martin as they lived the dream through the magic of television. Now, the dream is bigger than life.
Scott, Morris, and Dance each hold a place of honor as being 3 of the most notable pioneers of modern bass fishing. But in the coming decades, it would be the spirit of competition that would continue to fuel the meteoric rise of bass fishing into the lives of millions around the world.
If I could make a living from walking in the woods, you can bet I'd be sitting pretty good, high on a hill, looking at a field downwind. If I could make a nickel off of turning in bass, never worry about the price of gas, I'd be wheeling and dealing and sitting there reeling them in. Hunting, fishing, loving every day, that's the prayer that a country boy prays. Thank God he made me this way. Hunting and fishing and loving every day. Early in the morning, late in the evening, I'm getting red dirt rich and Flint River paid. Hunting, fishing, and loving every day. I get a little farm pond buzz, sound of gravel when I'm backing up, pulling the string on a 9.92 stroke. Murphy. I love it when my baby wants to roll with me, throws her boots on, climbs in a tree, tucking her hair in my hat and she's ready to go. And we get to hunting, fishing, loving every day. That's the prayer that a country boy prays. Thank God he made me this way. Hunting and fishing and loving every day. Early in the morning, late in the evening, I'm getting red dirt rich and Flint River paid. Hunting and fishing and loving every day, yeah. While y'all are up there, breathing in that old dirty air, I'll be down here, knee deep in the muck of leaf. Hunting and fishing, loving every close them eyes, let's go there in our mind. Hunting and fishing and loving every day, that's the prayer this country boy prays. Thank God he made me this way. Hunting and fishing and loving every day. Black coffee in the morning, dark whiskey in the evening. I get